These are a whole bunch of black classics by writers not named Toni Morrison, James Baldwin, or Zora Neale Hurston. Cause I am tired of seeing y'all rotate the same couple people every Black History Month. I can't start a list like this without talking about my favorite writer ever, Miss Octavia E. Butler. My favorite by her though has to be her Earthseed duology, Parable of the Sower, and Parable of the Talent. Jamaica Kincaid is a writer that y'all have to check out. I love her essay, A Small Place, which is a scathing critique of the tourism industry. I also read her story, Annie John. This is about Annie John and the relationship she has with her mother. Jubilee by Margaret Walker. This book took Margaret Walker over 30 years to complete. My favorite Harlem Renaissance writer is easily Nella Larson, who wrote 2 novels. Passing, which is her most famous one. This actually has a Netflix adaptation starring Tessa Thompson, which is amazing. And also her first novel, which is a little less famous, called Quicksand. You can't talk about the Harlem Renaissance without bringing up Langston Hughes and the ways of white folks. Speaking of the Harlem Renaissance, I gotta talk about Cain by John Tomer. This was originally published in 1923, and it is said to be part drama, part poetry, and part fiction. I love Paul Marshall, y'all. One thing I always say is that Paul Marshall's writing feels like a big warm hug from your favorite auntie. My favorite by her has to be Praise Song for the Widow. I highly recommend reading some Paul Marshall. I love how she blends her Caribbean heritage with her American upbringing. Another one of my favorite writers is Miss J. California Cooper. I read her book Family, which is like a neo-slave narrative. I also read her book A Peace of Mind, which is a short story collection filled with tragedy and laughs. The Street by Ann Petrie. This was originally published in 1946. Miss Coretta Scott King herself recommended this, so that's all I really need to know about it. I feel like people really underrate Martin Luther King's writing. I think his writing might be even better than his speeches. I think this is the oldest work on this list, The Portable Anna Julia Cooper. If you do not know about Anna Julia Cooper, you have to get this book. She is considered to be an icon, mother of black women's intellectualism, black women's feminism, just a prolific activist back in the 1800s who even shared correspondences with W.E.B. Du Bois. This is kind of cheating, but The Black Woman, an anthology edited by Toni Cade Bambara. This is an anthology of poems, essays, and short stories written by some prolific black women back in the 1970s. Another book about black women is Black Women Writers at Work, edited by Claudia Tate. This is a collection of interviews conducted by Claudia Tate with some prolific black women like Audre Lorde, Maya Angelou, Gwendolyn Brooks, Toni Cade Bambara. Every woman on this list is a legend. 2 autobiographies that changed my life. The first one I'm gonna tell y'all about is Asada, an autobiography. This book radicalized me, and it should honestly be required reading. Another autobiography I really enjoyed was Huey P. Newton's autobiography. I read this right after I read Asada's autobiography, and oh my goodness, it was just as good. The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. So many people have told me to read this book, y'all. My brother read this and he loved it. A Grain of Wheat by Ngugi. This was one of my top reads of last year, y'all. This taught me so much about African history, about Kenyan history, about the Mau Mau Rebellion. I'm sure all of y'all have heard of The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Y'all gotta start talking about her other books, y'all, like In Love and Trouble, Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. This is said to have shaped American literature. Enough said.